I just want to see a silly field sliding sideways in Sausalito.
Welcome back. You're listening to Fly Penguins Fly Game Day Podcast, episode 95. I'm your host, Jeff Taylor. I'm a huge Pittsburgh Penguins fan, so I created this Game Day podcast for you, for Penguins fans, and for hockey fans all around the world, regardless of which team you root for. Please do throw me a follow on Twitter at PensPod, on Instagram at FlyPenguinsFly, and subscribe to my brand new, mostly empty YouTube channel, Fly Penguins Fly, where soon I will be posting some exclusive clips and full episodes featuring guests I've had on and have booked for the near future. In that spirit, I'm really excited because a podcast host whose work I've been listening to for quite a while now, Mr. Hunter Hodies, is on the podcast with me today. Hunter, the host of Locked On Penguins, part of the Locked On Network. They do an amazing job all around the board, but as a Penguins fan, the only one I listen to is Locked On Penguins. And so, Hunter Hodies, welcome to Fly Penguins Fly. How you doing today?
I appreciate you for having me, Jeff. First off, I've always been a big fan of your show as well. I'm glad to be able to finally come on, and I'm going to have to repay that for you coming on my show at some point during the season.
Oh, anytime, my friend. It has been I'm going to call it a great start to the year for the Penguins, including your podcast. I thought the episodes that you've been putting out since the season started have just been a bit of an elevation, even from where you were already at. I think there's a certain energy going around this greater podcasting Penguins media Twitterdom. I throw DOM. I throw the suffix DOM on the end of a lot of things like Twitterdom, Penguinsdom. So if I say that, please don't be thrown. So maybe we could just recap a little bit about dogs. So I know you're a dog owner. I'm a dog owner. You have great hair. I have great hair. I feel like this was a conversation that was destined to be.
Yeah. My dog is, what is he doing right now? Hope he's not being bad. He just went out of my room, but I hear him.
What's your dog's name?
9-month-old black lab, Thrawn. For those that don't know who Thrawn is. Who is Thrawn? Is
Thrawn a dwarf from the world of J.R.R. Tolkien?
No, that would be Thorin, but that's close.
Or Thrain. Thrain is also a dwarf. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's his father. Funny enough, from The Hobbit.
No,
Thrawn is a Grand Admiral of the Empire for Star Wars, who was probably one of my favorite characters because of how smart he is. This dog still not that smart yet, but hopefully he'll be getting there at some point. So I think he's just chilling outside my room right now.
And Louise, who has her own Penguins jersey, although I don't see it it's usually right up here on the shelf. I must have put it on her recently. It's sort of a Vegas gold trim 2009-ish era Penguins jersey. Oh, I can see it from here, but I'm locked on this conversation. So for those who don't already know, you can follow Hunter on Twitter. Well, the show is LO_Penguins, correct? And remind me of your actual handle for your personal feed.
At Hunter Hodies.
Yeah, at Hunter Hodies, a great follow, a necessary follow if you are on Penguins Twitter. In fact, if you're listening to this podcast, my guess is you already follow Hunter. So great dialogue as always with you and some of the other luminous Penguins Twitter users who make me laugh and inspire me to go on in this crazy world of hockeyness. So going back a little bit, and I this morning listened to Paul Steigerwald and Brian Metzer on Pens Live Weekly. Always a fun thing. Almost never live do I actually get up in the morning and listen at 9:00 on a Saturday, but I always enjoy when they post the link. One thing that Staggy mentioned this morning on the broadcast was that apparently Jeff Petrie's family was having something of an emergency the evening of the Montreal game. That's not something that I certainly would expect to be privy to. What's that? Yeah. So may have led to some of those penalties, quite a number, 3 penalties that he took in that game, especially the one in OT that may have ultimately led to the loss. What were your thoughts on that game, and how much of a thorn do you feel like it really?
There were some interesting takes in the Penguins Twitterverse that, well, they had some rest and they're playing this bad against a team. That's kind of a worrying sign. I'm like, it's game 3 out of 82 here, people. Let's pump the brakes. This team usually really turns it on when the new year happens, January, February. They're off to a good start in October, which is definitely rare. Usually they get off to a slow start, but
Totally.
that was a game, you have those every now and then. And it doesn't help that I think you're going up against a team that you're expected to beat. They're up to nothing going into the third. They turtled. They didn't do enough to defend that lead well. Obviously, Casey DeSmith, that first goal, he just didn't know where it was. But then after that, the Penguins really got crushed, I think, in that third period. You look at the score effects, the micro stats, eye test wise, everything looks bad. But the players that did have off games, you said Jeff Petrie, he played really well in the next game. Chris Letang had one of his 5 to 7, 6 to 8 bad games that he really has per year. No, do not listen to Penguins Chronicles. That guy's fake news. The top line was really bad. It was just a lot. It was just an off night, I think, for a lot of the team. And, I wasn't really that worried because they got a point out of it.
Sure.
They probably should have been able to win that game, even though they played like garbage and they got what they did.
And they got what they deserved. I lost you for a second there, the feed cut, but I'm filling some space right now until the Zoom feed comes back.
30 left. Yes, you got that.
Now I have you back. Say it again. I'm sorry.
No worries. I don't know what the heck happened there. That was.
Oh, it was probably my Wi-Fi. It was probably on my end.
Okay. So yes, what was I saying? Yeah, it was.
Oh, the 2-0 lead. Yeah.
They had the 2-0 lead. It's cuts to 2-1. You're defending that 2-1 lead for much of the third period. You get to 2:30 left, and they call timeout. And credit to St. Louis, I didn't think he pulled the goalie that early. That shows how aggressive he's going to be.
Right.
Nice set play, but the Penguins didn't defend it well, and they got what they deserved there. Then they got what they deserved in overtime, even though I think you could have made the case that they should have been able to protect that 1-goal lead with 2:26 left. At the end of the day, they got the point. They were able to go out and crush the Kings in the next game. I think everyone would take 7 out of 8 points to start the year. I know you would.
Hell yeah.
I am. The team sure is. And, even though the road is about to get a lot tougher, it's good that they're banking these early season points to, stay afloat in the Metro. You're basically in first. I think they're in first place still right now. Just got to keep banking points. And the schedule is about to get really tough with a lot of these road games coming up. The Western Canada trip starts on Monday, playing a lot of really good teams out there. So,
and historically, it's been a good trip for the Penguins. But you know what I was thinking when Gensel, and we're going to get to this Kings game as well in just a moment, but Jake Gensel goes down right away. I think I heard you discussing this on a recent episode, but that moment when he goes down, does Gensel in that Ottawa game a few years ago when he had the shoulder injury. You were in the house. Oh my gosh. Maybe that's why you were discussing it, because you were right there in the building.
Yeah, I was he scored at the other end. I was behind the other goal, and I saw him score the goal, crashed in, and I'm looking at him, and then I saw him come up and he's hunched over. I'm like, oh, that's a collarbone. I knew right away that injury looked bad. It was like right before the COVID pause. I think he was supposed to be out for the season. I know that didn't happen, and that they lost in the first round against Montreal, but I figured, I knew right away. I was like, yeah, that doesn't look good.
And we'll certainly talk more about Jake Gensel and his absence, his likely absence, almost certain absence tonight in the game against Columbus. However, to wrap up on that Montreal loss and protecting the lead, this brings me back to the fateful night. The one playoff game I saw last year was in Madison Square Garden. You may have heard me discuss this, but walked up to the box office with no ticket, wearing this Malkin jersey, getting yelled at by all these, all these New Yorkers, all these Rangers fans. We'll call them what we will, but I play hockey with a lot of them when I'm in New Jersey, so I got to take it easy. The point being, 2-0 lead going into a late stage of the game. Obviously, there was a certain event involving now Captain Jacob Trouba, which changed the course of that game and that playoff series, not just dramatically. If you ask the preeminent beat writers for the Pittsburgh Penguins what it was that was going to go down, if that play didn't happen, It was a Penguins victory. It was a Penguins victory. It was a Penguins victory. They had that series fully locked on, I keep using that phrase. This is like everybody's throwing the new Taylor Swift album tracks into their weatherman routines or something as like a game. Like, can you say Lavender Haze and Midnights? And actually, we had I'm so tangentially insane right now going on about all these different things, but I'm also highly caffeinated, and the Penguins are playing hockey tonight, so I have no problem with it. Ashley and I went on a date last night, just driving back and forth over the various bridges in Pittsburgh, listening to Midnights by Taylor Swift, and drinking a Jake Shake that we got for half off. I mean, this is sort of the reason that I moved to this city, was to have a night like that with my sweetheart, just enjoying. I mean, when you actually go back and forth over a couple of these rando bridges, and I think it's the Clementi Bridge that's closed right now, or is it the Rachel Carson? One of yins out. I don't say the word yins, but one of yins out there is going to fault me for getting the bridge wrong. It is alarming how much steel they must have had lying around in the Steel City it's completely unnecessary how many bridges there are. You can see like 6 from wherever you're standing, and it's beautiful. I love it. I personally do love it.
Hey, it's just one of the nicknames they have for the great city of Pittsburgh. And I think the Clemente is closed. I think it's been closed for the last few months.
Yeah, it was certainly close to any kind of auto traffic when I was at the last Pirates game that I was at. That might have been the last Pirates game that'll ever be played, with how badly they did. Maybe they will next be called the Chattanooga Tryharders. Okay, so 2-0 leads. Boy, did the Penguins have that 2-0 lead in that Rangers game. They had it again. The one thing I'll say, when Geno Malkin scores a goal, when Geno Malkin scores 2 goals, when he is in beast mode like that, it is like the bellwether on which you can rest your Penguin hopes. If Chris Letang is looking particularly sharp, if there are just certain things in Penguins world, when they're clicking, okay, it's a loss. But as you said earlier, Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins, by the way, I just want to say it again in case you just randomly jumped into the podcast. Joining me here on the Fly Penguins Fly Game Day podcast. Hunter, thank you for being here. It is a bellwether when one of those guys that gets a lot of flack from your haters, from your garbage spewers, like a certain blowhard shock jock here in Pittsburgh likes to say, I'm not even going to give him any airtime, hating on Geno Malkin? Are you kidding me? The Conn Smythe Trophy winner? First of all, there are athletes like number 30, former goaltender for the Pittsburgh Penguins, whose bobblehead is right behind me, Mr. Matt Murray. He's a Stanley Cup friggin' champion back to back. If he never does another good thing in his life, he's one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. I'm not saying put him in the top 20 NHL goaltenders of all time, but he's one of the greatest ice hockey goaltenders of all time simply for doing what he did. He's a legend. He falls off after that. He takes injuries. He ends up playing for the Senators, doesn't do well, gets injured again, goes to Toronto, gets injured again. Okay, we can see where this is going. But Geno Malkin doesn't even remotely fit into that category. He is perennially awesome. His down years are still better than most any other. If he's not on the Pittsburgh Penguins, if he's not in the shadow of Sidney Crosby, it's a completely different story. The fact that he dedicates himself, wakes up every morning, eats, sleeps, breathes, die hard, wants to be a Penguin, wants to be Sid's alternate captain. This is like the ultimate soldier to me. All right. Well, I might have lost you there for a second on the Wi-Fi there again. As soon as you're back, I'm turning it over to you. Okay. I got you now. Go for it. Geno Malkin.
It might be my Wi-Fi. Usually the Zoom never really screws up. So this is weird.
It is eerily reliable, the Zoom technology. Not trying to plug Zoom here, but like, where did this come from? Pandemic hits and suddenly we have Zoom. It's like, I'm like a conspiracy theorist. Like, we didn't get digital technology from mathematics. We got it from the aliens.
I literally have no idea. I've never had a problem up here with recording, but
sorry, don't mind me. Geno Malkin.
Yes. Geno Malkin, I mean, he loves being a Penguin. He never wanted to leave. He always wanted to stay. Yeah, he could have at some point, a couple like 8 years ago, he could have been like, hey, I'm gonna go captain my own team and be the franchise player. I don't think many people would have batted an eye. It would have stunk, but some players are like that. They want to just get out of the shadow, if you will, and they want to be the captain of their own team. But said, no, I'm comfortable here. I want to play with Sid, and he sees him as one of his brothers. And I think he sees the same with Chris Letang. There were a lot of people this offseason spewing some really stupid things about him. Oh, excuse me, Vince Trocheck, you got to go sign him to replace Malkin. Oh, Andrew Kopp and all these other players. And it's just like people forget how good he's been for a lot of his career. Heck, he was just a point per game player last year. Now, what these people don't.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And what these people don't realize, his numbers were good last year. It was his assists that went down because look at his line mates. Dan Heinen, no disrespect to him, he's not a top six winger. Kasperi Kapanen, he had a really bad year last year. He's been playing better on the third line now, but you replace that with Brian Rust and Jason Zucker for potentially a full season, and you get Jeff Petrie up there giving him the puck a lot of times. And I know John Marino was a good player, but Petrie's a better offensive defenseman. Boom. Oh, look, it's no wonder why Malkin's off to a better start this season.
Yeah.
Also picking up where he left off. He is going to make a lot of people look foolish this year. And as you alluded to, Jeff, maybe you shouldn't go to an alternate rock radio station for your Penguin stakes. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, maybe you shouldn't listen to those kind of people. And
you know what? When you're on the ground, when you're playing deck hockey in Allegheny County, and by the way, that is a raw scene. It is nothing like the ice hockey scene. For any hockey players listening, Hunter, you're gonna have an idea what I'm talking about. You don't have to commit as much to play deck hockey. You can kind of show up and borrow some shin pads and grab a stick and play. And so you get carpet bagging, honestly, douchey people. And I got actually called some dark names and stuff at this deck hockey game up in the Wexford area. But I will leave it at that. Sticks and stones do break my bones because I am a feeling human being. Thank you very much. I don't need to be called. But in the ice hockey world, and where was I going with that? Why did I talk about deck hockey and Wexford?
Where did that come after me saying about Evgeny Malkin and bad takes?
I don't know. Oh, we were talking about blowhards, and I was going to say, when you're on the ground and you're talking to guys people who've grown up in Pittsburgh, unlike me, I'm the new guy, they all say certain people that we were just referencing are pieces of crap. Okay? And that they make fun of kids to their faces and behind their backs. Moving on. We're moving on. Los Angeles Kings had the gall to come into PPG Paints Arena the other night after what they did to us last year, and they took it on the chin. But up until a point, the baby, lowbrow, high-hit biz comes out, of course, to the Mike Tyson impersonator, ear-biting Brendan Lemieux. I said it on the podcast before warm-ups even started. I said, who was it? My buddy Thad out there on Twitter told me we got to watch out for Velarde. Fair enough. It was leading the Kings in goals coming into that game. I remember that Trevor Moore was a Penguin herder last year. Scored a couple of goals on us in the season at least. He's like Travis Zajac, just suddenly becomes a Penguin killer whenever he plays Pittsburgh, does more. Well, up until the other night. And I said, I kind of tossed this off just because of the basic buzz about Brendan Lemieux over the last couple of years. I said, and Brendan Lemieux is somebody you always have to watch out for. But because I didn't know that much about the Kings roster, I just kind of moved on and just talked about hockey. And look what happens. Brendan Lemieux, the high unnecessary hit as Gensel goes to touch the puck late in the game in which, the Penguins are shellacking the so-called Kings of Los Angeles County because, as we all know, my beer league hockey Kings of Woodbridge, New Jersey, a team I still GM from afar, which is doing great and was the West Division champs of the spring 2022 Woodbridge, New Jersey D-League. Great honors. Those Kings came in and get pounded 6-1. What is your take on this game? What is your take on the kind of player that Brendan Lemieux is? And I don't know. Go and then eventually let's phase into this Columbus matchup. What happened the other night?
Yeah, I mean, first off, Brendan Lemieux. I mean, he's a scumbag. I think is the best way to describe him. He's been doing this his entire career. I think it was some player I think said it a year or two ago. He basically is like he never respected him or something like that. I almost wanted a Penguin player to echo that because that's just the kind of player he is.
Yeah.
With the Rangers, same way. He eventually got traded. Now he's with the Kings. And, he's also Claude Lemieux's son. Comes with the territory.
Sure.
And there's just no reason for that hit. You're down. I think they were down 5-0 at the time, or it was 6-1, one of the two. And you're hitting him up high because you're losing.
You're down a handful rip.
Yeah. Take that loser stuff. You're skate off the ice. You don't need to do that. And I think Gensel, he actually came back after that hit. It was the puck that hit his ear that made him come out. He's on the road trip. He's not going to play tonight against Columbus. Probably just keeping him out as a precaution. I don't really know if he's that hurt. They continue to say he's being evaluated. I think if he had a concussion, they would have said that. So by now, I just think he has some sort of injury.
And it's a shame because Jake thrives in Columbus. I want to say he's got to have almost from the moment he joined the Pens, he's got to have among the most goals against that team of any Penguin. And I said this before, I'll say it again. I'm not a super stat heavy podcast. I enjoy stats though. In fact, tomorrow I believe we're going to have a very statty person on. But I don't like to also tease guests in advance too much. Like I just told Twitter that you were coming on like right beforehand because it's a busy world out there and you could get called away to, dog responsibilities or whatever, but I'm really grateful that you came on today, Hunter.
Yeah, no, of course. I actually do have a funny Jake Gensel stat here. So
go.
12 or more games against Columbus, 19 games actually. 10 goals, 21 points in 19 games against the Blue Jackets.
Come on.
Absolutely loves playing that team. And
come on.
Playoff series in 2017, three goal hat tricking to really put a stranglehold on the Blue Jackets, seeing Brandon Dubinsky go off the ice, looking up to the rafters after he missed that chance. There was nothing better than that, just because Brandon Dubinsky is such a loser.
Brandon who? Binsky? Come on. What was that thing that happened? Like he showed up at the Ranger game last year, like as though anyone cared. Like he's like going to get put on the big screen when like Michael J. Fox and Jimmy Fallon are there. He thinks he's totally an attention grabber. He's almost like the NHL player equivalent of someone else who we did not name before.
Yes, he's a troll. I saw his take that he said Ovi better than Sid. And, I like Alex Ovechkin. I think he's a great player. He's the best.
I have respect for Ovi. I got respect.
But it's like, dude, like you're just going to get ratioed. You're doing this because you hate Sid. He's never really liked Sid anyway. And Sid, they fought and Sid kicked his butt. So, I mean, he's still mad that he's taken out. He's been taken out, I think, 3 times by Crosby. I think he was on the Rangers in 2008 when the Penguins absolutely blew past them in 5 games. So,
oh yeah,
he's lost 3 series against them. Haha. At the end of the day, that's whatever.
He's cooked goose.
Yes, he is, and he's retired now at this point. But back to the Kings game a little bit, Jeff.
Yeah,
they started off a little slow. They could not get out of the defensive zone. The Kings were really clogging up the neutral zone too, getting a lot of shots in from the offensive zone. But the thing was, they take a lot of shots in general. They have quantity over quality. That's the kind of team they are and how the strategy that they play.
Yeah.
Penguins only allowed 2 high danger chances that entire first period, even though they were up 3-0. And also, even though they gave up a lot of, shots in the zone. And,
sure.
It's good because you're taking away that net front area. For those that listen to your show that you don't know what a high danger chance is, it's 5 to 10 to 12 feet out right in front of the net. And if you're taking away that area, obviously that improves your chances of winning. And that's what the Penguins were doing for that period. So yes, Tristan had to make a lot of saves. He stood on his head to really kickstart the Penguins to go up 1-0 from Jan Ruta and Rickard Rakell, Jake Enns to up 3-0.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the Kings didn't get as many big time chances in that period, which is why the Penguins were able to take control of the game and basically have it be over by the first intermission. Because in the second and third period, I thought the Penguins really took it to LA after last year when you said before, the Kings had their number. And I think the Kings are really good. They have a great top 6. They're really deep forward wise. Their defense is not bad if Drew Doughty continues to play well. And goaltending wise, it was an off night for him, off night for both Peterson and Quick. But this should still be a playoff team. I think they're one of the 4 to 5 best teams in the West. So this was a really impressive win, I thought, for the Penguins.
It was. And in spite of that first period almost aside from the reality of the stats that you mentioned with the high danger chances, which are very material, and I buy into those completely, there is also that aspect. That game, I watched the first period at my local pub up the road, and I listened to the second 2 periods. So I could see the Penguins having very little puck possession time in that first frame and still come out of the period up 3-0. That really was a bizarre moment, and almost one of those that makes you worry as a Pens fan, because oftentimes they have had trouble protecting those leads, as we discussed. Very nice to see them take one of those to the bank. 6-1 Penguins win, and we are now, do I have this right? We're 3-0-1. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, I thought you were referencing how far we are from the game tonight. But yeah, 3-0.
Oh,
yes.
Fair enough. No, that's all material. So tonight, the Penguins will take on the Columbus Blue Jackets at Nationwide Arena. I do want to wish our pal, I'll say, my friend of the show, Rob Rossi, well, as he goes into tonight's game, covering it live on the road. It's his first game back since dealing with the functional neurological disorder that he's been so public about and helped raise awareness about. So want to send our best to Rob.
Yes, I got to meet him last week, actually, at the game against Tampa Bay. Really nice person, and it was great to talk Penguins with him. So I do wish him the best for that.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, he's one of the good ones for sure. So have a great game out there, Rob. I hope the Penguins get a win for us and for you. Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins, I will just say thank you so much for coming on. I hope it is not the last time that you come on the podcast. In fact, I hope that you are sitting across this little yellow vintage Formica table from me in front of my geeky little Penguins corner in my recording studio next time that you come on in person. I will brew you some coffee and pick up some pastries from the Potomac Bakery for you here in the South Hills.
Hey, that would be awesome. I'm hoping, and I mean, I've been very public about it that I'm hoping to move up in the next month, or
we're hoping you move in the next month.
I'm hopeful that I can finally get up there and meet so many people. I feel like I know so many people in Pittsburgh. I'm really blessed about it. So I would love to come on your show again, especially, in person that next time.
Oh, well, the door is wide open, especially if I have another guest already booked. I will bump them for you. So be warned, anyone who has committed to this podcast as a guest. Oh, no. Well, thank you so much, Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins, one of the finest productions for Penguins podcasting out there. At Hunter Hodies on Twitter, at LO_Penguins to follow the show. Of course, you're listening to Fly Penguins Fly Game Day podcast, and that is going to wrap things up for me here on today's episode of Fly Penguins Fly Game Day podcast. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at PensPod, on Instagram at Fly Penguins Fly. And remember, if you've got a friend who needs to know about this awesome podcast, please tell them about it. The more black and gold in the house, the better. All right, Penguins fans, you can watch tonight's home game, not a home game, road game, versus the Columbus Blue Jackets live from Nationwide Arena.
It's a home game.
It's a home game. It essentially is. If you're watching on TV, it'll sure look and sound like one. On AT&T SN in the Pittsburgh area and surrounding Ohio River Valley region, and on ESPN Plus everywhere else, as longtime listeners well know, one of my favorite ways to tune in via terrestrial radio or on the web at 105.9 the XFM, where Josh Getzoff, Phil Bork, Paul Staggerwald, and Brian Metzer will have the call, along with esteemed guests. Wow, it's say each word twice day. Enjoy tonight's home road game versus Buckeye State's Blue Jackets, and of course, let's go Birds!